Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Paul, and I am a nerd, and I am coming to you live today from Cleveland, Ohio, where I am in the conference room of Monsieur Gavin, one of our clients, who has graciously allowed me to sit here for half an hour and talk with you guys. Today, we are here for our, gosh, what month is it? I know I always say that, and it always seems like the month's flown by. The October Virtual User Group Meeting, which we affectionately call the water cooler. And today we are talking about two things as usual. We're talking about filters in PracticeMaster, how to use them, how to set them up, why you would care. And that's something that I'm going to be talking about, and then Mary Jo's going to talk about what to do at the month end. Those things that maybe you haven't been doing and haven't been thinking about doing other than printing bills, things like checking the data file integrity and reindexing and maybe even advancing the month and things like billing and accounting. So before we get started with that, I'm going to real quickly pull this up right here and show you what you can do to ask questions or to raise your hand. You have a panel or a box that looks something like this. It may look a little different because this is our presenter copy. It's over on the right-hand side. It may be covering up our screen. And if it is, you can use this button right here that looks kind of like an arrow pointing to the right. Again, it may look a little different, but it's an arrow that points to the right. If you click that, it'll scrunch this big box out of the way so that you can see what's behind it. When you do that, this arrow will then turn into a one that points to the left, and we will then be able to, if we click it, bring this box back into focus. Bring it back so you can see it. Now, the reason that you want to bring the box back is because you're shy and you want to type a question in this question box. We will see those, we will stop occasionally, answer them, and move on. If you have follow-up questions, go ahead and just ask them in this box, and we'll continue to answer them until you stop asking them. If you are not shy, there is, at least in your boxes, and it's not in here because we are the presenters, there is a button in here that looks like a hand with an arrow pointing upwards in front of it. That means raise your hand. So that instead of typing a question and being shy, you can raise your hand. We will unmute you. We'll let you ask your question, and then we will go ahead and mute you back up after we've answered it so that we can make sure that you're also able to eat your Doritos, Fritos, and other crunchy snacks that you may be having as we get to the tail end of lunch. And so with that all said and out of the way, I'm going to go talk about filters. Now, filters are something that you can do in PracticeMaster to limit what you're seeing. Now, when you come into the client screen here, you can add a filter over here on the right. Maybe you've seen it, maybe you haven't. Maybe it's something that's always scrunched up and you just see sort by underneath it. You never even really poked around and saw what that means. But a filter is a way to limit what you're looking at on the screen. And when you do that, it's going to show you only the data that you want to see, and usually in a specific order. For instance, sometimes people just want to see their active clients. So I'm going to bring this filter box back up. And I'm going to click on active clients only, and all of a sudden I'm looking at active only. I am not looking at any inactive clients. You'll see that you've got this little green box up here that says filter, and that indicates that a filter has been applied. This little green check mark will indicate which filter has been applied, and this right here, add edit filter, that's how you change your filter around. And I'm trying to get my cursor back over there. And it's not working for me. Hold on one second. This is right about where I would usually accuse Mary Jo of moving the cursor, and then she would say, I'm not moving the cursor.
This time I have to say I was looking at questions. Sorry.
Okay.
It was my fault.
Okay. This is the filter definition box. And very simple, but very complex at the same time. There will be some things in here you don't understand. Don't worry about it. You can feel free to play in here. You are not going to break anything. You're not going to delete any data by putting a filter on. If you mess it up, you mess it up. So use the Paul rule, which is play with it till it works. This box up here merely is the name of the filter. So out here where you see active clients only, whatever you type in there is what you'll see over here. This is the expression that limits what's going on. And then we also have the ability to use an index to tell it what order to put our data in once it's been filtered. You can see that this has the expression inactive equals 0. Now, in the filter, you have what we call an expression box, and in the expression box, we can put in functions, operators, and fields. Now, what that means is we can say this equals that. The this, in this case, inactive, is a field. It's a field from the client file in PracticeMaster. And since we're currently looking at the client file, when I pick up the field box, I will see fields that come from the client file. One of them, of course, is this inactive field that you see here. Inactive is a checkbox. It's either yes or no. It's either on or off. It's either checked or unchecked. And being unchecked is a state of 0 in that. So if you know what a Boolean field is, you can identify with the fact that it's either 0 or 1. This gets down to that thing that computers only understand zeros or ones, but we're not going to go there because that's a little too nerdy. Basically, when we say inactive equals 0, we are saying inactive is not checked. Now, there are other ways to say that. I could say simply not inactive, because inactive is a Boolean field, and it is either inactive, meaning it's been checked, or it's not inactive, meaning it's not been checked. This is where you could say that a certain timekeeper, primary timekeeper, equals a certain person. Or you could say that the client, the left part of the client number equals these 4 digits. So it would show you only a certain client and all their respective cases. Or this is where you would say only next review date within a certain range. These are all things that you can say in here. Now, I'm not going to go into a lot of detail about how you build these expressions. I'm going to tell you that if you click on Help in here, you will get information specific to building expressions. And one of the things that you'll find very helpful, if you are nerdy enough to be going in here and looking at this, is that there is a list of functions that you can use within an expression. And right there, available functions. So all the different functions, how to select a field, what the different operators are. There's even a query that you can run that will help guide you through, and that's here, the query wizard, help guide you through what it is that you want to do. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail there. I'm just going to kind of throw some things out so you guys can play with this. People can email us questions. They can ask us questions live here. I'm just here to show you that this is available and that it's something you can do. Now, another filter that I like to use and that a lot of our firms employ is the next review filter. And let's take a look real quick at the detail tab for this particular record. Whoops. Detail tab. There we go. Sometimes I wish these things would do what I'm thinking, not what I'm clicking on. We add a field in a lot of clients' offices to the whatever screen they tell us to put it on that allows them to specify a date of next review. Attorneys like to review cases on a periodic basis, and they don't typically like to put in tasks to remind them to do that because it clutters up their task or their task list or their calendar. So we put this field in, and an attorney can say, I want to see this case come before me at whatever interval they want. Maybe they look at this case and they say, well, you know, this case is, let's see, we've got calendar items, and people seem to be doing what they're supposed to be doing. Let's see, we've got this coming up and that coming up. They can click around, look at things. They can call somebody on the phone and ask them questions. They can call the client and ask them questions. Basically, reviewing the case is something that's done in different ways for different people, and sometimes it involves PracticeMaster or not. But when the attorney then says, okay, I want to review this case again in a month, all he's got to do is click this button, go to the next month, say maybe it's the 24th, Wednesday the 24th is the next time he wants to review it. And when he goes back and turns on his review filter right here, right here, it will order it by date of next review, showing the date of next review, what the client's name is, what the work description is. And now here's a couple that came in, haven't been even given a review date. They will show up at the top, and then we start getting these in date order based on what you've assigned as next review. So let's say we look at this case now, and we go through and we call the client, or we call the associate that's handling the case, or we check out what's been done and what hasn't been done. We see medicals have been ordered. We see we've gotten all but one. We check with the paralegal. We realize that she's already talked to the provider. They're coming in. So we feel that this case is pretty much under control. So we go to details. Again, we schedule it for, let's say just a couple days off. So I'm just going to put in 10-28-10 because we want to check this again and make sure that those medicals came in, and then we're going to leave it alone for a while. Now when we go back to the list tab, that item is no longer at the top of the list. It's been pushed down to here, or to wherever 1028 is. I guess that's it. And now we go on to the next case, and we look at this one and we say, well, this is a contingent case, and we pretty much have done everything we can. It's a workers' comp case. We've gone before the board. We've gotten whatever ruling we can, but the statute runs in 6 months. Let's say 8 months in July of 2011. So we go over here to details, and we change the date because we do want to review this one more time before the statute runs. So we just drop this down, or we just type a date in directly. Maybe we want to look at it on June 30th, 11, which happens to be a Thursday, so we know that's a good day to look at it. We save it, and we go back over to the list, and now this record has dropped way down. Now in a real practice, this record would probably drop way off the list. Not off the list, but off the screen. We go back up to the top and we continue reviewing. Now let's look at that filter. It's a very easy filter because in my example, I didn't have it look at a specific attorney. I just said, hey, show me these records in order based on the date of next review. That's what the DLNR field is. DLNR stands for date of next review. If I wanted to say, just show me the cases for which Martin, whatever that fake guy in our sample data, his initials are, the attorney. Let's go in here and find him. Let's actually go out of here. Let's find out what this guy's initials are, this attorney. Let's see, setup. And Michael Jensen. We want all the cases ordered by date of next review, but only the ones for which Michael Jensen is the attorney, and he's number 1. So we're going to go into Add Edit Filter, and we're going to say that the field primary timekeeper right there, that the actual number.
Michael Jensen was the secondary timekeeper.
Yeah, but he'll be primary on some
Okay.
ones.
Okay.
He was number 1 though, wasn't he?
I believe so.
He better be. Our heads will roll, as my Uncle Jim used to say. We're going to save that, and now we're looking just at Michael Jensen's date of next review. So imagine we have a firm that we're putting this in right now. It's an insurance defense firm, actually a couple of them. And they have fields where they can specify date of next review for the partner, date of next review for the associate, date of next review for the paralegal, and fields next to those where they can identify who the partner is, who the associate is, and who the paralegal is. And therefore, when you click this on Bob the paralegal's machine, it shows you those cases ordered by date of next review paralegal for which he has been assigned the paralegal. And when you click it on Joe the partner's computer, he's got a different filter. His will show those for which he's been assigned as the partner, ordered by date of next review. Okay? So you have this ability in PracticeMaster to filter data based on a wide variety of things. All the fields can be filtered on. You have to get a little nerdy and understand how to make an expression, and I will gladly accept emails from people asking how to do that, and I will even answer them without charging them, just because I am feeling magnanimous today because that's a topic that really is getting a little bit beyond the scope of what some people feel comfortable doing. But if you've got a nerd in your firm or somebody who understands how these variables go together with these expressions to create these lists, then they can filter data for you. Now, one other thing I want to show you is we are filtering client data right now, client and case data, because we're in the client and case screen. We can't, in this screen, filter, for instance, calendar information, because when we click on calendar, we're only looking at calendar items for the case which we're currently looking at. It's already filtered, if you will, okay? Instead, we can, but we can only filter it here for this client. In other words, if we say we want to see all the hearings and build a filter over here for the calendar screen, we're only going to see all the hearings for this client. Now, that might be handy. That might be a good filter to have. But I want to point out something that a lot of people don't know is that if you go into File Open, you can open these files of information like calendar or document or journal or anything else that the system is storing, whether it be a file that you've set up on your own that's an area practice file. In our system, for instance, we have a people file where we track different people within the firm. Who's the office manager, who's the managing partner. We can open up that file and set up a filter and show me all the managing partners across the scope of all firms. And to open a file without any regard for what case those items fall into, you simply come into File on the menu, Open, and if it's not one of the files that's immediately obvious here, like the journal, the calendar, the related parties, fees, costs, these are all files that you can open directly without regard for what client and what matter. All the other files are listed here. And when you get here, you can actually select any file that you want to open, including the ones that were on that list before. So if I want to build a filter for all calendar items and I want to see all hearings or all client appointments that are in conference room C or whatever it is that I want, I come in here and open up the calendar file without regard for client. I go into Quick Picks and I do my filter from here, okay? I can't see that. You guys probably can. I've got my, there we go, filter. And you can do it from there. So filtering is something that can be used within the client file to limit clients, within any other file to limit any other thing without regard for which client and case it belongs to, and within the client file on other tabs like calendar or documents or journal to limit things just for that client. For instance, you want to see the hearings that are coming up just for this case, or you want to see the documents that happen to be pleadings just for this case. Okay, anybody have any questions, Mary Jo?
No questions.
No questions. I'm either being obtuse or I'm explaining very well. We'll go with explaining very well for now. And Mary Jo, now you're going to talk about what? Month-end things to do? I'm
going to talk about month-end. Now, I'm not going to talk about specific reports or things like that because that's going to be unique to your firm. You know, some firms may want to see an AR report or a detail, you know, work in process report, whatever. There's different reports that you're going to want to run based on what type of law practice you're running. So I'm not going to go into specific reports, but I'm going to tell you the general maintenance things that you need to be doing every month. And a lot of times people aren't doing these because they're exclusive tasks, and they don't, you know, everybody's got to be out of the system. Sometimes they take a little longer to run, and they just start skipping them because it just is kind of a pain. But you really don't want to do that because this is how you keep your system in order and how we can take care of problems before they arise. So I'm going to show what you want to do for month end. So first of all, we'll go ahead and we'll start in PracticeMaster. And you can go underneath the tab here, and you'll see there's the data file integrity check. Now, most of you probably are running that, and you should be. So when you get in here, oops, you can't do it in the demo system, Paul. Anyway, when you get in here, you're going to run the data file integrity check, and it's going to give you an option to run it as read-only, and then if you want to compact the files. Now, I was able to do that, I believe, in tabs. So I'm going to see if I can get into it over here to be able to show you. No, I can't do it in the demo.
You could just go into the other system.
I'm going to go into my own because I really want, so bear with me for just a second. I'm going to go into my tabs program.
So this dog runs into a butcher shop.
I got it. I'm here. All right, so when you go in here and you click on your data file integrity check, you're going to get this little message, and we're going to go ahead and say, okay, this is just telling you that, if this is interrupted for any reason, you'll need to restore. So you're going to want to make, you want to just keep that in mind that when you're running this, you're going to say, okay. Here you've got the option for read-only or okay. In this instance, at the end of the month, you're just going to want to go ahead and run this. So you're going to go ahead and click OK, and it's going to go through each one of the different files on the system, and it's going to look for any errors. And if you get an error, you don't want to just close it and say, oh, I had 3 errors and, no big deal. You want to be able to correct those as soon as possible. So, if you get errors, you need to find out why and what they are, and not just, blow past them and do it every month and these errors keep continuing. So that's the first key, is if you get an error, fix it right away. But you're going to want to run the data file integrity check for tabs. And then the other thing, you have an archive data file integrity check here for tabs. This is after you've actually billed and something's gone to the archive file. You're going to also want to run the archive data file integrity check. And this one's a little bit smaller. You're not going to see all of the different individual files. You're just going to see the archive file. Again, you're going to just run this in regular mode. You don't need to check read-only. You're going to say OK, and you're going to go ahead and run the tab 3 data file integrity check. So that's the first step in tabs. The other thing that you're going to want to do is you're going to want to re-index the files. Again, you're going to want to make the backup first. Once you do, you have the options in here to re-index all files, re-index specific files. You can compact the selected files, and you can delete the records that contain errors. I would suggest at the end of every month you re-index all the files and compact them, compact the selected files. You don't want to check the delete records that contain errors. That's used very rarely, and you don't want to be deleting records out of there just because they contain an error. You want to fix those errors and then have the file be okay. So you're going to go ahead and compact that. And what that does, you've got a lot of clients you're at, you've got a lot of fees, a lot of costs. That's going to compact that down because eventually your database, those fees are getting longer and longer, and it's going to go back and renumber, and so you don't have to have quite so many high numbers in there with your fees. It always gives it a reference number, and those, the higher that number gets, the longer it's going to take to start doing your programs and things like that. It can slow things down. So you want to go ahead and re-index and compact the files. Okay, so that's for tabs. And again, a lot of these programs are going to be similar into what you need to do, but it's important to do it for each program. So PracticeMaster, again, you're going to go into the data file integrity check. You're going to go ahead and I would check the email attachments. If you're saving emails into PracticeMaster, you definitely want to be able to check that and make sure there's no errors coming over in that. So it might take a few minutes longer, but it's worth it in the end. And you'd say, okay, it's going to go through all of your different areas of practice, all the files, and you're going to go ahead and run and check for errors. Again, if there are any, you're going to correct right away. Once you get done with the data file integrity check, again, you want to re-index the files. Make your backup, and then all files, and compact the selected files. You run the re-indexed files, and that will do that. And then the last thing that you want to do here, and under the search and search settings, there's also another place where you can rebuild the index, and you're going to want to do that as well. You're going to want to rebuild the conflict contact index and the email attachments index and your linked documents index. Again, it's going to get everything condensed down and re-index and make sure there's no errors, and you can go ahead and get those things cleaned up as well. Go ahead and hit rebuild, and you'll run that program. So for PracticeMaster, data file integrity check, re-index the files, and then go into the search settings and rebuild the index there for all 3 areas.
And I'm going to interrupt you because Luann has asked, does it matter if you re-index in PracticeMaster if you don't use it? And the answer to that is no. Don't re-index and do data file integrity check in the programs that you're not using. You do have a free copy of PracticeMaster Basic that came with tabs. If you're not using it, don't worry about it.
Right.
Somebody else
Any of these
asked,
programs, if you're not using,
right,
you don't need to worry about it.
And then somebody else asked, is there a certain sequence? Is it better to do the DFIC first or the re-index first? Mary Jo?
I don't think that that matters as long as you're doing both. A lot of times if you run I'd run the data file integrity check first, because if there is an error on there, sometimes reindexing the file will fix that error, depending on what it is. So I'd run the data file integrity check first and see if I've got any data errors out there, and then I would reindex my files. And then if if I did have an error, I reindex and I come back and rerun the data file integrity check. If I still have the error, then there's a different correction for that error then. I need to go a little bit deeper and look into what that resolution is. It all depends on what type of error you get, and most of the time you need to go back and rerun the data file integrity check to make sure you've cleaned it up anyway. So I just run it first, try to clean up those errors, and then reindex my files.
And one more question, Mary Jo. Does each user have to do this?
No. This is just one user will do this at the end of the month, and that will do it for all the programs. It's not a user-specific procedure, but you do need to, I believe, be a manager to do it or have rights to run that. So if you've set up certain people, with an access profile that does not allow them to get into these programs or into maintenance, they won't be allowed to run it. So whoever the person is that you have in charge of running it, I would make sure that they have those access rights, or make it the manager. Okay?
No more questions.
Okay. So that's what you want to do in PracticeMaster. I'm going to go over to Accounts Payable. And again, all of these, if you come in here under Utilities, you're going to see these data file integrity checks. So again, in Accounts Payable, run the data file integrity check. No read-only. You're just going to run the OK. And then you're going to reindex the files. And again, reindex and compact. And reindex all. Okay? I'm going to flip back to tabs just for 1 second, because there is one other thing in tabs before I jump back, and I didn't want to get out of that program. But the other thing at the end of the month for tabs, after you've run the data file integrity check, the archive data file integrity check, and you've reindexed the files, you also need to advance your month. So it's very key, either the last day of the month or the first day of the month when you come back in, advance your current reporting month. You don't have to be closed and billing done and all of that, but you do need to tell tabs that you're now in the next billing month. So make sure that you advance that reporting month. And again, the backup is important. Right now you can see that I was in August, so if I go ahead and say OK, I'm going to be now in September, and I'm going to come in, and now September will be closed. If I do this right away, if you find yourself back a couple months and you're just advancing to get, like I just did, to October, you might get this message here. It's the warning that says it's been less than a month since I advanced my month, and I know that, so I'm going to just go ahead and say yes. And so there I am. Now that's important, especially if you're keeping track of productivity totals, because if you don't advance your month, some of those reports are based on your current reporting month. And if you're back in July, even though you've got statement dates for August, September, October, those productivity reports, there's a few that run based on that current reporting month. So, all that's being dumped into July if you haven't advanced since July. So just keep that in mind. That can skew those. So it's key that you advance that current reporting month every month. And that's in tabs, and it's also in General Ledger, and that's where we're going next. So when we get into General Ledger, same thing, data file integrity check. And I'm going to show you one thing in General Ledger. If you do run your data file integrity check and it comes back with retained earnings mismatch, a lot of times people will get that message and they're like, well, what do I have to do? Do I need to go, post something to retained earnings to fix that? How do I take care of that? All you have to do to fix the retained earnings mismatch is come back into the data file integrity check, check read only, and say OK and run it again. The system is designed to automatically correct that error. It's just basically letting you know that, hey, you made a change that affected a prior month or a prior year, and we just want you to know that, rerun this so that it'll go ahead and auto-correct it. Okay, so that's a big one that people get in GLS and they just don't know what to do with it. Just rerun the data file integrity check with read-only checked. It'll auto-correct. Don't make manual postings to your retained earnings account. After you run your data file integrity check, again, you've got your reindex files, all files, compact. Run that. And then you have your month year-end. You're going to go ahead and advance your posting month. And if you get this is another thing that happens. Sometimes people will get this reconciliation has not been finalized. And they're thinking, well, I didn't start a reconciliation. Why is this popping up? All you have to do to start a reconciliation is click on the reconciliation and view it. And if I come in here and I just view this, I've started a reconciliation. Even though I haven't checked anything off, General Ledger thinks I have one open. So to get that message out of there, you just have to come in and hit the red X. If you just go ahead and cancel, it's still open. It's just like I had hit postpone. If I hit postpone or this X over here, it's just saving what I've already checked off. Now, either you have started a reconciliation and you just haven't finished it and finalized it, or you really didn't. You came in and you just looked at something and got out. So depending on what that situation is, if you really did start one and you've got half your stuff marked off and you need to finish it, you need to come in and finish and finalize. But if not, you just hit the red X here to cancel, say yes, and now it's like I've never started one. So now if I come into my month year-end, advanced current reporting month, that message is gone. Okay, and now I can go ahead and advance to October, and now I'm complete. The end of the year, when you get to December, it's going to ask you some year-end options. Do you want to save all your journal entries for years ending in whatever month, or do you want to save only the unreconciled journal entries, or do you want to delete all the journal entries? So you've got some choices there at year-end. I would say most of the time you're going to save all your journal entries, but that's up to you and what you do for your accounting. But that's there for year-end only. And you can see they're grayed out until then. So until whatever your final month is for your year, it will show up then.
And I'm going to interject something here. It's important when you come into this month-end, year-end routine to pay attention and make sure that you're closing the right month. If you accidentally forget that you closed already and then you do it again, you're advancing past the current month, and that can create problems for you. So.
And that's the same thing in tabs. Double check. You can see that it pops up. If I come in here right now, it's going to tell me advanced month to 11 of 2009. This is, this is still sample stuff too. This is like old data, so the system thinks it's 2009 in here, but in your system this would be 11 of 2010. So obviously October's not over yet. We don't want to do that. Same thing in tabs. It's going to pop up this box, and it's going to say, October or whatever will be closed. So be very careful, because just like I said with the current reporting month for that productivity, if you don't advance it to the current month, you're going to have everything dumped in that whatever month you left off on. And if you advance forward, everything's going to skip over. You will have no productivity for October. It'll skip over into November and dump everything in November. So you got it. That's very important. Okay. Trust. You're using the trust accounting module. Same thing. Data file integrity check. They all look very similar. So you're going to come in, just say okay. And then you're also going to go ahead and reindex the files, and all in compact. Okay, so those are pretty straightforward. The other thing that some people don't realize is that you can also, and I'm going to get all the way back out of everything and go to my system configuration, because there's also a place in system configuration under utilities to reindex files. And a lot of people miss this one. And this is important too, because if you look at the files that are in here, you've got support logs, you've got users, you've got configuration, access, and email status. And a lot of times later on, you could get errors that refer to these files. And to reindex those files, it's under system configuration. And so I just come in, I would just do this as a monthly thing as well. And that will go ahead and you can compact, reindex all files, and that's the last place then that you can come in and take care of month end.
I have one more question for you, Mary Jo. It says, when you reindex, doesn't that change the reference numbers on fees? And how do you then go back to or edit or find a fee entry on, let's say, a semi-annual bill? And then I'll answer that. If you printed a draft and it's got reference numbers on it, or you've printed a WIP report and it's got reference numbers on it, and then you go to reindex, those numbers will change. So that's a correct statement, that if you have printed this draft and now want to edit based on those numbers will change. However, if you reprint the draft, you'll be able to find out what the new numbers are, and you can always go in when you add a fee or when you're editing a fee and simply drop down the list and look at the available transactions. Of course, if you've got a semi-annual bill, it may have hundreds, if not thousands, of transactions on it. Make it a little difficult to find. You can sort by date, you can sort by whatever. But if you have a semi-annual bill, you're probably not printing drafts each month. You're just probably printing a draft for it at the end of the month. I'm sorry, at the end of the period when you're about to bill. And you do not want to reindex while you've got drafts out that you're then gonna edit. So there is a certain order to that. You do want to reindex either before or after you've done your draft statements and you've turned them into finals, because that's true. It'll change that. And then I do have one more question that I haven't read yet, so bear with me for a second. In GL, can the month be advanced before doing the reconciliation? Oh, yes, before doing reconciliation. I am one of those that doesn't do month-end at Attorney Computer Systems till halfway through the month. I usually don't do it till Mary Jo emails me and says, "Where's my expense check?" Then I say, "Oh my gosh, I haven't done month-end. I haven't done my end of month for last month."
Yeah, most statements don't come until the following month, so
Correct.
you know, you definitely are going to be advancing your month.
Really, people used to be very afraid, very scared of moving GL and AP and tabs forward a month. All you're really doing, at least with GL and AP, all you're really doing is saying, hey, it's not October anymore, it's November. You can still go back and post entries for October if you've closed the month. You can still go back and print your income statement and your balance sheet. You can do anything you want in October. All you're really doing is saying, let me post payments and write checks for November because it's November now, so let's move the month to November. There are also rumors, I'll say, that STI is looking in future versions of eliminating that function altogether, because we have the capability these days to simply have what we call date-based accounting that doesn't matter what period you're in. It just looks at the date of the transactions to come up with income statements and things like that. That's probably going to be off in the future. But now, when it comes to the end of the month, you just want to move forward and not worry about it.
One final thing that I'm going to say, and I'll probably say it this month, next month, and our December meeting, when you get to the end of the year, you don't want to just skip over, hurry up and advance your month or your year to 2011. There's some things that you're going to want to do, and that kind of ties into what Paul was just saying with GL. You're going to want to archive your client. You're going to want to copy and make a complete backup of the STI folder so that you can get back into it, because some things will be lost. There are going to be some things that you can't get back into from the year before as far as reports go. So we'll talk about that in more detail coming up, but I just want to reiterate that this month, like I said, I'll do it next month in December, because we have that all the time. You want to go back and get a certain report based on a certain date, and you can't get back to it. So we'll show you how to do that in our year-end user group meeting. We always touch on that, so that'll be coming. But that's the only thing that you need to worry about. At the end of the year, there's a couple other steps that you're going to need to do. But everything else, that's what you need for the end of the month.
I have one more question, and I wasn't even aware you could do this, so you're going to have to help me here, Mary Jo. Is it a good idea to renumber invoice numbers at the end of the year?
Renumber how? I mean,
I am not quite sure whether they mean invoice. It's Kathleen that's asked, so if we can reiterate, that'd be great, or clarify. I'm not sure what is being asked. Invoice numbers in tabs, invoice numbers in accounts payable. I didn't know that was something that would happen. I think, well, I do know, I guess, that if you're printing statements, you can have invoice numbers either be specific to the client or firm-wide. And I suppose you could restart with number 1 at the beginning of the year by telling. I don't
know that you would want to in either instance, only because if you have invoice number 1 from this year, and then you have invoice number 1 from last year, I think it can get a little confusing.
Yeah, I
whether
would
it's
say
client level or by firm level.
Yeah, exactly.
I would just let it run. I mean, that client is always going to have
tabs that she's talking about, and I would say no.
Yeah, I don't think that you would need to do that.
But Kathleen, if that doesn't answer your question, email me and we can talk about it offline. I think that's all the questions. Did you have anything more to say, Mary Jo?
No, that's it.
Well, you know, you can't start saying that a dog runs into a butcher shop and grabs a roast off the counter and then not finish it. So the
tried to save you guys. I tried.
butcher recognizes the dog as belonging to somebody who lives in the apartment building next door, who happens to be a lawyer. So he calls the guy up on the phone and says, "Hey, if your dog runs into my butcher shop and grabs a roast off the counter, would you be liable for the cost of the meat?" And the lawyer says, "Sure. How much was the roast that he grabbed?" And the butcher says, "Well, it was priced at $7.99. So the next day, the butcher gets an envelope in the mail from the lawyer, and in it is a check for $7.99 and a bill for $75 for a telephone consultation. I don't hear anybody laughing. Do you, Mary Jo?
You've got everybody muted, Paul.
Oh, that's probably a good thing, because the laughter would be so loud that it would drown everything else out.
Oh, goodness.
Okay, well, I think that concludes our October 2010 virtual user group meeting, which we, of course, affectionately call the water cooler. Join us next month when we will talk about something interesting, I'm sure. We just don't know what yet. So if you have suggestions, please email them to paul.purdue, like the school, not the chicken, P-U-R-D-U-E, paul.purdue@attorneycomputersystems.com. And we're always looking for things that people want to hear us talk about. Another thing to remember that I keep telling myself I should put in the announcements that we send out with the topics, you don't have to be here. If you sign up for the virtual user group and then you don't show up, and as those of you who come regularly know, even if you do show up, I end up sending you a link a few days later, once we get it polished up and out on the web, to a recorded version of the webinar. So if you want to attend, but you've got something going on that day, you're having teeth pulled, your children's braces are being tightened, whatever the case may be, sign up anyways, and then just don't come. And a couple days after the virtual user group meeting ends, you will get an email that gives you a link so that you can watch the recorded version. So keep that in mind. If you see something that you want to see and you can't show up, just sign up. We'll get you taken care of. And with that, we will say goodbye, and everybody have a good afternoon. Thanks.
Take care.